In Rich Eisen's defense, he pegged the Rams as his pick to win the Super Bowl for weeks and weeks. So him being loyal to that pick now is not that surprising. He's just, staying with the pick that he picked. And I'm bringing him up the start of the video because I also feel like of many of the media talking heads, him and his crew over on the Rich Eisen Show are the most accessible. They run the YouTube channel so people can comment there. And sometimes, TJ and Chris, they'll mention reading the comment sections and stuff like that too. So because they feel so much more accessible, I think they get more of the brunt of really any fan base when the fan base feels like they're being disrespected. The relevance is the Seahawks are one of now 4 teams left, period. Top 4, period. All right, first of all. Secondly, top 2 in the NFC. That's how that works. They're in the championship game, win or lose. Now, that obviously that's not bringing home the trophy, so it's not the same, and I get that. And honestly, I could speak positively about all 4 remaining teams, and I'm probably going to, as a matter of fact. Stay tuned. But the Seahawks and why the 12s tend to have a chip on their shoulder has to do kind of with this picture that the Seahawks tweeted out and with the caption, "Seahawks exceed the limit." Now, I don't know a ton, admittedly, about Umamusume, all right? I will be straight up honest about that, but I will say, to kind of give context the best that I can, right? You have horse racing, but the horses are anime girls, but they're named after actual historical real horses, and the races that do go on in some cases are direct one-to-one historical references of actual things that happened with the characters that have those names. As such, has gotten some people into horse racing. You have the Denver Broncos that have people that are literally going to those games and cosplay and stuff, and the Broncos haven't lost ever since. So I'm pretty sure if the Broncos win the Super Bowl, Brandon Perna is gonna have to play Umamusume on the off season, like stream it or something. I don't make the rules, but my point is, so with this tweet that they tweeted out, using who I only usually call the smug haunts scientist girl, but with the caption "exceed the limit," because to this character exceeding limits, right? That is something that feels relatable because of the limits that have been set on the Seahawks, and even Rich has done it too. Who have the Seahawks beaten? And then they go and they beat the Rams in overtime. Okay, well, yeah, they have the chance to get the first seed, but maybe the 49ers could go get it. Well, then they go beat the 49ers, they get the first seed, they have the bye week, they're number 1 in the NFC period of the 2 conferences. Okay, well, they've done this. Oh, well, the oblique might be the thing. Oh, well, they've lost, Zach Charbonnet. Oh, this and oh, that. And it feels like, and I know this is the thing, it feels this way. It doesn't mean it's this way, but it feels like that the narratives are trying to be set up to go, when the Seahawks lose, we already have the narratives ready to go, and we just need to kind of hold off talking about them. So if they finally do go out and get eliminated, now we can kind of say, oh, yep, just as we've been talking about for weeks. When the reality is, since they keep winning and keep exceeding the limit that's always put on them going into one of these games, well, now we got to. And I'm not going to say this is verbatim, but I know the Monday after the wildness that was the divisional round, one of the things Rich kind of mentioned was, hey, Seahawks fans, he hears us, and he's like, but the other games were basically just more crazy. So they're all going to get talked about pretty much first before y'all. And that even kind of feels some kind of way, because it's just like, well, fair is fair. The other games were perhaps a bit more wild, but also if you don't talk at all really about the Hawks, you're kind of just playing the waiting game, seeing if they get eliminated the next weekend, and then you don't have to talk about them after all, when they've done this a lot over the course of the season. That's where the feeling of disrespect kind of comes from. No one, not really, maybe some people are, but the 12s aren't really asking for the media or for Rich or anyone to glaze Seattle or just play them up way more than they should be. But it is saying when they're at the table in the Final Four here, make sure they're treated the same as the other 3, I mean, case in point, you want to talk about statistics, you want to talk about, stats and next gen stats and all that stuff. Here's a stat for you. Did you know that since the, well, I guess it was played in 2006, but I guess 2005 season, the Seahawks Steelers Super Bowl, that of the 19 Super Bowls, because this year's hasn't been played yet, 9 of the 19 teams that were in the Super Bowl for the NFC were NFC West teams specifically. there are storylines to talk about if you just need talking points of in some way when it comes to Seattle, right? Did you know that if Seattle does beat the Rams this weekend, their opponent is either going to be arguably their best Super Bowl opponent that they've ever had, or their most infamous Super Bowl opponent that they've ever had? Did you know that counting that earlier stat, if you want to count the Rams in this too, so the Rams and Seahawks can split this one, that would mean in the past 20 Super Bowls, half of them in the NFC were represented by an NFC West team. Piggybacking off of that point, that also, since this Super Bowl is being played in San Francisco, this one mainly for 49ers, there's a good chance one of two of your three divisional opponents might be about to win a Super Bowl in your house. Now, that's not really a stat most people will care about, including San Francisco fans. They probably definitely don't want to care about that one. But yes, that was the interesting part about this tweet too. So they put Gold Chip as the 49er in here, which makes sense. San Francisco, the Gold Rush, stuff like that too. But I just thought it was interesting. This season feels special. And the one thing that doesn't feel out of place, funny enough, is the media and how they kind of don't, it's like they kind of don't want to talk about Seattle. Not that they hate Seattle, but that they just kind of don't want to talk about Seattle. And maybe we don't have the ton of talking points, but the fact that we're the first seed, even the fact that the whole thing runs through our house, win or lose, it just feels like that's cool. So this tweet was kind of cool. And this whole situation's kind of cool. And I said I'd talk positively about the other teams, so here we go. The Rams. First and foremost, your fan base tends to be a lot nicer than some other fan bases. They're pretty chill and stuff too. But also, yeah, Stafford, right? If Stafford wins this game and he goes to the Super Bowl, maybe even just going to the Super Bowl, but then winning the Super Bowl, and he decides to retire, he probably should be at least in the conversation for the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of cool things he's done at that point for LA. I think that would definitely be a deserved point at that point, to at minimum say he is worthy of the Hall of Fame. Even if you're not saying he's a shoo-in guarantee for the Hall of Fame, fine, okay, but that's for sure. Broncos fans. Now, Broncos fans, apologies, not really, for the last Super Bowl matchup in case we end up having a rematch, but you're going into it with Bo Nix being injured, unfortunately. Now, I mentioned earlier about Brandon Perna, but truth be told, I do hope that if they make it and they win, it is satisfying, if nothing else, because I do think the Broncos has been an interesting team to watch. I think, I'm not saying it's connected, but Umamusume fans have been supporting the Broncos and they haven't lost since. I'm pretty sure some players know even less than even I do, which is quite nothing when it comes to that franchise, and yet they're probably like, but we're winning, so it's whatever. Maybe all the players, if they win the Super Bowl, are going to have to play, do a stream of the game. That's how they'll pay that back. But I do think the Broncos is an interesting team, because after Peyton Manning, I do think there probably were question marks to the average fan about, well, how long will it take them to be good again? How long will it take for them to see success again, especially with the Russell Wilson trade, and stuff like that. And it is cool, actually, just if we take myself out of this as a Seahawks fan, specifically as a fan, it is cool to always see teams kind of eventually hit that rebuild and get there, right? Which then leads me to the Patriots. That means, yeah, Patriots, I'll give you yours too, including Chris Brockman. Listen, you were only bad for a little bit, and for some other, franchises, they're rolling their eyes at how much y'all were talking about being in misery. But at the same time, same thing. I do enjoy the idea of people getting to be happy. Spoiler alert, it feels good to feel good. Now, that being said, I do think that the Patriots now getting to the championship game, even if they don't get through the Broncos, is also still something to celebrate about, because I don't think anybody this year expected the Patriots to be this good outside of Patriots fans, and even Patriots fans, right? Even Chris Brockman, I'd have to go back to when they do the win-loss thing. It's why I reference the Rich Eisen Show so much. A lot of this stuff is very accessible on YouTube to reference. I do think that, I don't remember if he put them as going undefeated, but if you look at even last year, stuff like that, there wasn't a lot of, oh yeah, they're definitely dominating the playoffs, they're definitely going to the Super Bowl, or even possibly going to the Super Bowl. So, like I said, and for all 32 teams, and that includes the Patriots, it is cool to see people just get to be happy again. It's really cool to feel good about your team, which then takes me back to the Seahawks again, because it's a great opportunity. And what should have been a rebuilding era since last year and this year, that turned into, no, we're top 4. And so that's it. There's no, negatives in the idea of you sticking to your Super Bowl favorite that you picked weeks ago, and anybody in the media. But it does feel like, just make sure you're not doing that at the extent of finding ways to just not talk about one of literally the final 4 teams. That's all we want. We don't want to be glazed, which in today's terminology means basically like kissing someone's rear, or just overhyping them no matter what, just kind of being all in on them no matter what, to make this as friendly as I can. But yeah, that's the basic idea, is just like, make sure all of them get an even slice of the pie, because 2 of them aren't going to be there next week. And if Seattle's there next week, well, then you have to talk about them, because they're half of the Super Bowl. And then even then, the media will be like, well, the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl, but can Sam Darnold take the Seahawks to a Super Bowl? That's what it feels like. It's not true necessarily, but that is what it feels like. And it's funny to think that that could be a narrative if the Seahawks win this weekend. So if the Seahawks beat the Rams, it is interesting to think that their Super Bowl opponent will be their best Super Bowl ever, or their infamous Super Bowl ever. Because I know there's a Steelers one, but let's be real, that one was more to do with the officiating and stuff. We're talking purely within the game, I should clarify. Their probably most famous Super Bowl, or their most infamous Super Bowl opponent. That's what's on the table. But they gotta play the Rams first, and the Rams are a good team. I think the Seahawks have actually definitely woken up more over the last couple weeks. So I think they will play better than they did when they last played the Rams in Seattle. But I also think the Rams are going to play better than the Rams did when they last played the Seahawks in Seattle. And you want a hot take? I don't think either quarterback will turn over the ball more than once each. I think between both of them, only 2 turnovers max. You can go over under on that one, but I go under that. I think these games, both these championship games, might be more important than the Super Bowl. I'm not saying the Super Bowl wouldn't be exciting this year, but I'm saying these games might be more. It's something about this season. So it just feels like, in a season that feels magical for several different reasons, just make sure the Seahawks aren't shafted. And usually we're pretty fine. We'll be pretty fine with you if we're not feeling shafted. Shafted is when we start feeling some kind of way. Videos about instead William Shafter eating cereal in a car like a boss, that is cool. And when it's your show, for example, like the Rich Eisen Show, you can do whatever you want. That's fine. Just, if you're ever wondering, like, why do 12s feel some kind of way? This might be one of the reasons why. When a segment pops up about them on any of these sports channels, and it's like a nice 8-minute segment, and it's really 2 minutes, and then you kind of deviate to another team, or you just talk about some of Seattle's woes for the other 6 minutes, that's when it's like, well, what are we doing? We're running time up. That's what we're doing. We're getting ad revenue. It's fine. It's fine. It's play ball. It's YouTube. It's how you do the thing. No problem. Just, if the Hawks once again overtake, and we get a third Shin Comics featuring some Umamusume shenanigans here with the because this is the second time they put the scientists in here. All right. What happens if we exceed expectations again? What happens if we do win the Super Bowl? That can be a video for another time. But for now, credit to Shin Comics, by the way, comics with the X on the end, for making this one, since I'm probably gonna use this in the thumbnail, not gonna lie. But also just in general, as someone that doesn't really talk about sports that often on this channel. I've made the occasional sports, like, comedic video when it comes to the Seahawks or something, but not often. My channel is mainly gaming. We kind of leave the sports comedy like Tom Grossi, Brandon Perna, and some others that that's like their thing, and they're good at it too. So go watch them instead. But it was one of those where it's like, if I'm gonna make this video, I have to make this video now though. We can't make this video in like March. We can't even make this video after this weekend, depending on the results. Because even if they win this weekend, we could make another video, but it'd be a different video about the Super Bowl. So if you're seeing this video and you watch this video and you got this far, thanks for that. But on a more serious note, your face is amazing. And I want to make it clear at the end here too. This isn't a dig at ESPN or any of the talking heads or Rich Eisen or anybody. I just wanted to kind of voice this in a video in a world where I'm also sitting here just thinking, as a Seahawks fan, we could be on our way to another Super Bowl in a world where we were severely underestimated. And admittedly, we didn't even really know how good we would be because we got Sam Darnold and we didn't necessarily doubt him, but we didn't know because that's how all season starts. We don't know. You think Chiefs fans knew how their season was going to go? You think anybody knew how you think the 49ers knew they were going to be like injury riddled and still be able to compete for the first seed? Like there's a lot I could talk about, but this one's about the Seahawks because we're not going to do what everybody else tends to do and just kind of glaze over them. They have exceeded the limit. And look out because they might be about to again. But the Rams are a good team. I'm not going to shaft the Rams either. But I definitely have a bias. If you clicked on this video, that's like asking a Rams fan to make a video where they're like, but Seattle's actually, they'll probably beat us. No. By all means, defend your teams. One of the four remaining people, defend your team. And I'm going to do that here too. This is a Seahawks video at the end of the day. Good luck. I hope for, if my words matter at all and out there in the ether, I hope for no injuries. I don't hope for any tears. I don't hope for any concussions. I hope for a nice hard-fought game. And if it ends up being a blowout like the divisional, I still hope regardless that there are no bad like situations that happen to the players. You know what I mean? I hope the game is so clean regardless. Now go watch Tom Grossi, Brandon Perna, the Rich Eisen Show, and the Seahawks Rams, and the Patriot Broncos. Go Hawks.